You're sitting in a researcher's office. They slide a photo in front of you. A moment from your childhood you haven't thought about in 20 years. Your parents taking you to Disneyland. You remember the castle. You remember the hot sun. You remember it so clearly, but here's the thing. Bam! It never happened. Your brain just built it from a suggestion and some old photos you'd seen. That's the false memory effect. And it's already rewriting your past. Your brain doesn't record memories like a camera. It reconstructs them every single time you recall them. And in that reconstruction, suggestion sneaks in. A leading question, a detail from someone else's story, a photo you've seen. Your brain fills the gaps with plausible details and then locks them in as real. You aren't lying. You're remembering something that feels true but never occurred. Elizabeth Loftus's research in the 1970s and 80s showed just how easily this happens. Researchers described a fake childhood event in detail to subjects. By the third session, 40% of them had generated full false memories, complete with sensory details and emotional texture. Some people were guided to remember getting lost in a mall, being attacked by an animal, committing a crime. The memories felt identical to real ones. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Here's how it shows up. You're in a meeting and your boss says, "Remember when you said that idea was impossible?" You didn't, but now you're searching your memory, finding a half-formed doubt you once had and locking it in as your stated position. A friend shares a story about a night out with you. They add a detail you're not sure about. By next week, you're remembering it their way. You see a news story about a crime. Days later, you swear you remember seeing it happen. Your brain loves shortcuts. Suggestion is the fastest shortcut to feeling like you know what happened. But here's the kicker. False memories aren't just personal confusion. In courtrooms, they've sent innocent people to prison. Eyewitness testimony, once considered the gold standard, is now known to be profoundly unreliable after suggestion. A detective's leading question. A suggestive lineup. Exposure to news coverage. These reshape what a witness remembers seeing. Confidence soars while accuracy plummets, and the justice system has paid the price in wrongful convictions. Here's a concrete move. For the next 48 hours, become aware of suggestion. When someone describes an event you were also at, notice if they add details you didn't recall. When you're tempted to say, "I remember," pause and ask, "Did I directly experience this, or did I hear it from someone else and weave it in?" Write down one memory you're uncertain about and mark whether it's a direct experience or a reconstruction. Just that. The awareness alone starts to separate signal from noise. Your memories are powerful. They feel like truth, but they're also malleable, suggestible, rewired by every conversation and every story you hear. The good news, you can't stop your brain from reconstructing. But you can get better at noticing when suggestion is doing the work. You can ask for primary evidence instead of relying on recall. You can become skeptical of your own certainty and protect yourself and others from false memories' reach. Knowledge. You watched a car accident. Boom! 3 seconds of twisted metal and broken glass. You feel certain you saw everything. Your memory is vivid, solid, totally trustworthy. Then someone asks you, "How fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other?" Smashed, not hit, smashed, and suddenly your brain rewrites itself. You swear the cars were going faster than they actually were. You remember skid marks that weren't there. You are completely convinced of details you invented. That's the Loftus effect. And it's already rewriting your reality. Here's what's happening. Your brain doesn't store memories like a video camera. It stores sketches, rough blueprints, patterns. Researchers found that the words used in a question, the framing, the verb choice, even the tone, become raw material your brain uses to fill in the gaps. You're not remembering the accident, you're reconstructing it. And every time you reconstruct it, you're building on the last version, not the original. The suggestion becomes the memory. Think about a job interview you bombed months ago. Someone asks, "How badly did that crash and burn?" Crash, burn. Your brain adds details. You remember stammering more than you did. You remember the interviewer's expression is more hostile. You construct a worse memory out of the scaffolding of their phrasing. Or a date went fine, but your friend asks, "When did they seem uninterested?" Your brain hunts for evidence. A pause, a glance. Suddenly the whole night reframes. Here's the kicker. In the courtroom, this matters. Eyewitness testimony shapes verdicts. Police detectives, therapists, journalists, they all ask leading questions, and they all inadvertently weaponize memory. A bad question doesn't just gather information, it manufactures it. What you do for the next 48 hours, notice every leading question people ask you. Notice them. When someone asks, "Don't you think that was unfair?" instead of, "How did that feel?" Pause. Recognize the suggestion embedded in the frame. Write down one memory you felt certain about, then ask yourself, is this the original or the reconstruction? You don't need to answer, just notice the gap. Your brain is powerful, it's also suggestible. And now you know it. You're sitting across from a friend describing a car accident you both witnessed last week. They ask, "The car was going pretty fast, wasn't it?" You pause. You actually remember it as moderate speed, but now your brain is second-guessing itself. Bam! By the time you answer, you're convinced it was flying. You didn't see it wrong the first time, but you remember it wrong now. That's the misinformation effect, and it's already rewriting your past. Here's what's happening. Your memory isn't a recording device, it's a construction site. Once information gets planted, whether from a question, a news headline, or someone's casual comment, your brain weaves it into what you thought you saw. Researchers found that suggestive questions and post-event information can fundamentally alter how you encode memories. Your brain loves shortcuts. Why keep the original when it can stitch in the newer, shinier detail? Say you're shopping and a salesperson asks, "Isn't this the highest quality version?" Before you know it, you remember it as better made than when you walked in. Or you scroll past a headline claiming some celebrity scandal and miss the correction 3 posts later. But your brain keeps the scandal as fact. At work, a colleague describes a meeting you both attended with their spin on it. You nod. Later, you swear you saw it their way. But here's the kicker. This gets weaponized constantly. Lawyers know it. Advertisers bank on it. Social media algorithms exploit it. A leading question in an interrogation doesn't just ask, it plants. A political ad doesn't just persuade, it rewrites what you think you already knew. Your memory becomes a clay pot, shaped by whoever asks the next question. So here's your move. The 48-hour rule. For the next 2 days, whenever someone describes an event you were both present for, pause before agreeing. Write down your memory of it first, alone, before the conversation reshapes it. See how often the post-event narrative tries to rewrite what you actually experienced. You'll start noticing the difference between what happened and what people tell you happened. That gap is where your agency lives. Your brain is primed to be rewritten. The moment you see that happening, you get to choose whether you let it. You're sitting at your desk, your phone buzzes, a news alert. A plane has crashed, a celebrity died, a war started, and suddenly, bam, your brain crystallizes the moment. Where you were, what you were wearing, the exact light in the room, the song playing. You can feel the texture of that moment like it happened yesterday. Vivid, precise, certain. You'd swear in court your memory is perfect. That's the flashbulb memory. And it's already pulling your strings. Your brain loves shortcuts, and emotional shock is the ultimate trigger. When something jolts you with surprise or dread, your amygdala floods the scene with neurochemicals. Researchers found that intense emotion creates a kind of spotlight effect. Your brain flags that moment as historically important and burns it into storage. It feels different from ordinary remembering, more photographic, more real. Here's the catch. The spotlight doesn't work like a camera. You're remembering the emotion perfectly. The facts, much murkier. Think about 9/11. Millions of people remember that morning with absolute clarity. What they ate, who told them, what they wore. Studies comparing those memories to contemporaneous journals found they were wildly inaccurate. People misremembered the time, the place, who they talked to. But they swore they were certain. Or think about the day your relationship ended. You remember that conversation in excruciating detail, every word, every glance. But ask your ex about the same conversation and the scripts diverge completely. Different arguments remembered, different tone, different sequence. Both of you are certain. Both are experiencing that flashbulb feel, but here's the kicker. This certainty is precisely what makes the effect dangerous. Flashbulb memories are weaponized daily. Politicians weaponize them, creating shocking moments people remember wrong but defend fiercely. Lawyers exploit them. Emotional testimony feels more credible, even when it's contaminated. And your own brain weaponizes you against yourself. You're hardwired to trust vivid memories most, but vivid and accurate are not the same animal. So here's your move, the 48-hour rule. Next time you experience an emotional jolt, shocking news, a heated argument, a dramatic event, write down exactly what you remember immediately. Then wait 48 hours. Write again without looking at the first version. Compare. Notice where your certainty diverges from itself. You'll see the flashbulb effect in real time. You'll start to feel the gap between vivid and true. Your memories feel like they own you. But they're impressions, not recordings. The more you see that gap, the more you test your certainty, the more you get to choose what you actually believe. You're scrolling Twitter at 11 p.m. and you see someone post a pun. It's perfect, genius, really. You retweet it immediately, adding your own commentary, feeling clever. 3 hours later, you remember. You came up with that exact joke 6 months ago at dinner with friends. It hit you like ice water. That wasn't their idea, it was yours. But your brain had already digested it, filed it away, and served it back to you as brand new. Bam! That's cryptomnesia. And it's already pulling your strings. Cryptomnesia is when you remember the memory but lose the source. Your brain catalogs thousands of fragments every single day, conversations, articles, videos, overheard ideas, but the retrieval system is a liar. It brings back the content without the label. So your brain doesn't know it came from someone else. Or something else. It feels original because the source tag is missing. It feels like you. Researchers found this happens most with ideas that stuck because they were good. The better the idea, the more your brain wraps it in the feeling of having thought it yourself. Here's where it gets real. You're in a meeting and you pitch a strategy your colleague mentioned last week. You genuinely don't remember they said it. The idea is now yours in your mind. Your brain convinced you, or you're writing a novel and a plot twist feels utterly fresh, but you read it in a book 5 years ago. Or you're scrolling a design portfolio and see a layout that makes your brain light up. Then 6 months later, you recreate it thinking you're being original. Different domains, same trick. But here's the kicker. Cryptomnesia becomes a weapon when you don't know it exists. Companies count on it. A familiar song sounds like your song because you forget where you heard it. Repetition plus amnesia equals ownership. Someone shares a finding in a podcast, you internalize it. Then 6 months later, you lecture your friends as if you discovered it. You're not lying. Your brain actually believes it. Here's your move. The 48-hour source audit. For the next 2 days, every time you have what feels like your own clever idea, pause. Write it down. Then ask, where did this really come from? Chase it back. A conversation? A book? Something you saw online? Name the source out loud. Make your brain acknowledge the seam. You're not trying to be perfectly honest. You're training your memory to time-stamp ideas as they come in. After 48 hours, you'll notice the pattern. Your best ideas? Many of them aren't yours, and that's not a flaw. That's how good thinking actually works. You're scrolling through your phone. Something happened last week, a text, a rejection, a disappointment, and it feels like it was ages ago. Meanwhile, something that happened 5 years back. Suddenly it's right there, vivid, recent, like it happened last month. Your timeline is broken. Bam! That compressed feeling? That's your brain warping distance. That's the telescoping effect, and it's already scrambling your sense of time. Here's what's happening. Your brain doesn't store time linearly like a calendar. It stores events by how memorable they are, how much emotional weight they carry. Recent events? You have tons of fresh details about them, but your brain gets bored fast. The mundane details pile up, they blur together, and suddenly that thing from last week feels ancient. Meanwhile, old events with strong emotional charge, they have fewer details cluttering the picture. Your brain can hold them whole so they feel recent. Researchers found this asymmetry works differently depending on whether you're remembering or imagining the future. Let's watch this wreck your world. You broke up 3 months ago and it feels like a year. Your job interview was 8 years back and it still stings like Tuesday. You're convinced you've been working this project forever. 2 weeks, actually. Or you're certain you just bought those shoes last month, but it's been 18 months and they're falling apart. Time collapses in one direction, stretches in another, and you lose your grip on what's actually happening. Now. But here's the kicker. This isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Marketers use telescoping to make you feel like you need yesterday's version of the product right now. Remember how long ago that was? Politicians weaponize it, make recent good news feel ancient, old failures feel fresh. Your brain's broken clock makes you impatient, reckless, eager to repeat mistakes because they feel farther away than they are. Here's the move. Track one thing this week with actual dates. Not feelings, dates. That argument with your partner, write down the date. That win at work, date it. That time you felt like a failure, date it. For 48 hours, whenever you're about to act on a feeling about how long ago something was, stop. Check the actual date. Watch the gap between what your brain says and what reality says. That gap is where your freedom lives. You can't rewire your memory, but you can override it. Time is one of your few finite resources, and your brain keeps lying about how much you have. You're at a dinner party, someone says something wild, a statistic, a story, a claim, and you nod like you've known it forever. Later at work, you cite it to your boss. Sounds credible, feels certain. Then weeks later, you're scrolling and you see the exact same fact debunked, and your brain goes, wait, where did I even get that? Bam! That feeling, that disconnect between what you know and where it came from. That's what we're chasing tonight. That's the source monitoring error. And it's already pulling your strings harder than you think. Your brain loves shortcuts. When you remember something, it doesn't store it like a filing cabinet with labels. It stores the feeling of truth, the vividness of the memory, how recent it is, how many times you've repeated it. But the source, where it came from, that's treated like an afterthought. Researchers found that our brains are wired to prioritize accessibility over accuracy. If a memory feels smooth and confident, your brain assumes it's real. And it assigns a source almost at random, filling in blanks based on context clues. Here's the kicker. You do this constantly. Someone texts you a link, you read 2 paragraphs, then weeks later you're telling people what you read like you researched it yourself. You see a video clip, the audio stops, but the caption stays burned in your mind, and suddenly you're citing it as direct quote. You read a headline, never the article, but you talk like you lived the full story. At work, you absorb feedback from 3 people, mash it together, and later cite it as if your boss said it. In relationships, you swear your partner said something they didn't, because it fits the narrative so cleanly. But here's the warning. Once you misattribute a source, it's almost impossible to correct it. You'll keep citing the wrong origin. People around you will too. Entire teams make decisions based on hearsay that everyone thinks came from research. One study becomes what I read somewhere. A joke becomes something I learned in school. A partisan blog becomes conventional wisdom. Disinformation is built on this. So are half your confidently wrong opinions. Here's your move. For the next 48 hours, every time you cite something, a fact, a quote, a statistic, pause and ask yourself, do I actually remember where this came from? Or am I just assuming? Write down 3 things you stated as fact today. Track back. Be honest about the source. You'll be shocked. This rewires your source monitoring muscle. It makes you harder to fool and harder to trick yourself. The truth is, your memory isn't broken. It's just honest. It remembers what happened, not the metadata of how you know it, but you can train it. You can slow down the gap between confidence and certainty. You can ask the question before you speak. That's agency. That's the difference between being wired by your brain and being free of it.